The art of silence. Tommy was a talkative boy who lived in a small town. He talked all day long. He talked during breakfast. He talked during lunch. He talked during school. He talked during dinner. His family was tired of his endless chatter. His teachers were exhausted by his constant questions. His friends sometimes walked away when he would not stop talking. Tommy's voice was heard everywhere he went. In the classroom, his hand was always raised. In the playground, he was always shouting. At home, he was always telling stories. He believed that talking made him important. He thought that silence meant he was being ignored. One sunny morning, Tommy's grandmother came to visit. She was a wise woman who understood many things about life. She had traveled to many countries. She had met many different people. She had learned valuable lessons from her experiences. Grandmother watched Tommy talk without stopping for 3 whole hours. "Tommy," she said quietly, "would you like to learn something special?" Tommy stopped talking for a moment. He looked at his grandmother with curious eyes. His mouth was still open, ready to speak more words. "What can you teach me?" he asked quickly. "I can teach you the art of silence," she replied with a gentle smile. Tommy laughed loudly. He thought silence was boring. He believed talking was much better than being quiet. Why would anyone want to be silent when they could speak? He could not understand why his grandmother thought silence was an art. "But grandmother," Tommy said, "if I am silent, people will forget about me. If I do not talk, no one will know I am here." Grandmother shook her head slowly. "That is not true, dear Tommy," she said softly. "Sometimes the quietest people are the most memorable ones." The next morning, Grandmother took Tommy to the old library in their town. The library was filled with thousands of books. The shelves reached from the floor to the ceiling. People were reading quietly everywhere. Students were studying for their tests. Adults were researching important topics. The atmosphere was peaceful and calm. "Listen carefully," whispered Grandmother. Tommy tried to listen. At first, he heard nothing special. The silence seemed empty and boring to him. Then, slowly, he began to notice small sounds. He heard pages being turned by careful fingers. He heard pencils writing on paper. He heard people breathing softly. He heard the old clock ticking on the wall. He heard footsteps walking quietly between the bookshelves. "These sounds were hidden by noise," explained Grandmother. "Silence helps us discover them." Tommy was surprised. He had never noticed these gentle sounds before. His own talking had always covered them up. He began to understand that silence was not empty at all. Next, they walked to the town park. Birds were singing in the trees. The wind was blowing through the leaves. A fountain was bubbling near the pathway. Children were playing games on the grass. Dogs were running with their owners. Flowers were blooming in colorful gardens. Tommy sat on a wooden bench with his grandmother. She told him to close his eyes and listen. This time, Tommy heard even more sounds. He heard different types of birds singing different songs. He heard the fountain making musical sounds. He heard laughter mixing with the wind. He heard leaves rustling like whispered secrets. He heard his own heartbeat in his chest. "When we are quiet, we hear the world speaking to us," said Grandmother. Tommy was beginning to understand something important. He realized that silence was not empty. Silence was full of wonderful sounds that were usually covered by his constant talking. The world had its own voice, and it spoke through gentle sounds and peaceful moments. They visited the town's old church next. Inside the church, everything was very quiet. Sunlight was streaming through beautiful colored windows. The light made rainbow patterns on the stone floor. People were sitting quietly, thinking about important things. Some were praying silently. Others were just enjoying the peaceful feeling. Tommy felt something special in that quiet place. He felt calm for the first time in many months. His busy mind became still. His restless body became relaxed. He understood that silence could bring inner peace. The next day, Tommy decided to try being quiet during his art class. He was given a paintbrush and colorful paints. Instead of talking about what he would paint, he simply started painting. He focused all his attention on his artwork. He painted a beautiful sunset with orange and pink colors. He added purple clouds and golden stars. His teacher was surprised by how well he had painted. "Tommy, this painting is wonderful," said his teacher. "You are so focused today." Tommy smiled but did not say anything. He was learning that silence could help him concentrate better. His painting was created through quiet focus and careful attention. The artwork was better because his mind was not distracted by talking. At home, Tommy tried to be silent during dinner. He listened to his parents talking about their day. His father spoke about his work at the office. His mother shared stories about her students. He heard his little sister telling stories about her friends at school. He noticed that his family had interesting things to say when he was not interrupting them. His mother noticed the change in Tommy. "You are very quiet tonight," she said with a smile. "Are you feeling okay?" "I am learning the art of silence," Tommy replied softly. His father looked surprised. "That is wonderful, son," he said. "We are proud of you for trying something new." Tommy continued practicing silence for several days. He discovered that being quiet helped him in many ways. He could hear his teachers better at school. His grades began to improve because he was listening more carefully. He could understand his homework more easily. He could enjoy music and nature sounds that he had never noticed before. One afternoon, Tommy was walking through the woods near his house. He walked very quietly, trying not to make any noise with his footsteps. He stepped carefully on the soft ground. He avoided breaking dry branches. Suddenly, he saw a family of deer drinking water from a small stream. The mother deer was watching for danger. The baby deer were playing near the water. The deer did not run away because Tommy was being so quiet. He became invisible to them through his silence. Tommy watched the deer for 15 minutes. He saw how gracefully they moved. He saw how they communicated with each other through gentle movements and soft sounds. This was a magical moment that would never have happened if Tommy had been talking loudly. When Tommy returned home, he found his grandmother sitting in the garden. She was reading a book peacefully. Butterflies were flying around the flowers. Bees were collecting nectar from the blossoms. Tommy sat beside her without saying anything. They sat together in comfortable silence for a long time. "Grandmother," Tommy finally said, "I think I understand the art of silence now." "What have you learned?" she asked gently. "I learned that silence is not empty," Tommy said thoughtfully. "Silence is full of sounds, feelings, and discoveries. When I am quiet, I can hear things that were always there but hidden by my talking." Grandmother smiled proudly. "You have learned something very valuable," she said. "Silence teaches us to listen with our hearts, not just our ears." Tommy continued to practice the art of silence every day. He learned when to speak and when to listen. He discovered that his words became more meaningful when he used them carefully. His friends began to listen to him more because he was not talking all the time. When Tommy spoke, people paid attention because his words were important. At school, Tommy became known as a good listener. Other children came to him when they needed someone to hear their problems. Tommy learned that sometimes people just needed someone to be quiet and listen to them. He did not always need to give advice. Sometimes listening was the best help he could offer. Tommy's grades improved significantly because he could concentrate better in class. He heard every instruction from his teachers. He understood lessons more clearly. His relationships with his family became stronger because he listened to them more carefully. His friendship with his grandmother grew deeper through their shared moments of peaceful silence. Months passed, and Tommy became a master of the art of silence. He knew that silence was not about never speaking. It was about choosing the right moments to speak and the right moments to listen. He understood that silence could be a gift to others and to himself. It was a way of showing respect and love. Tommy realized that the art of silence had taught him patience, understanding, and wisdom. He had learned to appreciate the beauty of quiet moments. He had discovered that some of life's most important lessons were taught without words. Nature taught through peaceful sounds. People taught through their expressions and actions. From that day forward, Tommy balanced talking and silence perfectly. He spoke when his words could help others. He listened when others needed to be heard. He remained quiet when silence was the most beautiful sound of all. He had become a wise young boy who understood the power of both words and silence. Tommy never forgot the lesson his grandmother had taught him. The art of silence became a treasure that he carried with him for the rest of his life. He knew that in a world full of noise, the ability to be quiet was truly a special gift. He shared this gift with others by being a good listener and a thoughtful speaker.